Hello, welcome everyone, and happy Halloween. Thanks for joining us today for our special Halloween edition on Building Trust, complete with our own Tales from the Crypt.
Hello and welcome to Tales from the Crypt. This is Casey, your not so trusted advisor. We want to engage in a constructive conversation today about how we can improve our fundamentals around building trust and the pathways to becoming a more trusted advisor. This session is an extension of what we started in August around building better connections. And as we will explain today, when practicing the 4 C's of trust, great things are possible. For those of you who don't know us, Sherry and I have been in a professional architectural relationship for over 20 years, and we both know how important trusted relationships are when serving others. We also care so much about this industry and the future of our industry. We've decided to build an educational platform for product reps called Arc Rep Expectations. And in order for me to do this today, I'm going to have to clear the mask.
Thanks, Casey. I've been around the construction industry as both an architect and a specifier for the last 3 decades. I most recently combined those two and shifted my focus to educating the construction industry about specifications. Today, I am celebrating the first 30 days of my latest product on the market, my Master Guide specifications. And with that, a big shout out to my trusted advisors out there, thank you, that helped review and update my spec library over the summer to make this all possible. And as Casey said, when practicing the 4 C's of trust, great things are possible. And I am grateful to everyone that helped me meet this huge milestone.
Well, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Casey Robb, and I've been surrounded by construction my entire life. I grew up building houses with my father. I got the opportunity to go to college and major in construction technology, and then landed my first job after college as a field engineer for a contracting division on large industrial projects. I did mostly commercial, industrial, and contract administration. And then, bam, about 5 years into it, my first downsizing. So I had to really rethink things. And what I did was I became a construction product rep in 1986. Since then, I've worked with literally four of the largest building product manufacturers in the industry. I've participated in all levels of CSI and attended literally hundreds of construction industry events, all of which have helped me expand my trusted connections within the AEC community. Building trusted reputations with specifiers, consultants, product reps alike have always helped me be more successful. Architects and specifiers often tell me, I'm always looking for a trusted advisor. And I said, well, maybe that's just, more of a respect thing for reps, but they're looking for that dedicated resource that they can count on again and again and again. From my own surveys as a consultant now, and from those within AIA, CSI, and others, architects and specifiers continue to seek out those trusted product reps today. They seek them out for professional assistance. And even as we emerge from the pandemic, we've become a lot more virtual and things have changed a lot, but we still need each other and we continue to rely on trusted relationships.
If you've taken any of the certification courses from CSI, you're very familiar with the 4 C's of construction documents, right? They're clear, concise, they're complete, they're correct, and sometimes they can be a little confusing.
Yeah, and today we want to share with you different set of 4 C's. It's a completely different set, but it's all about being and maintaining and developing that trusted relationship.
So we're going to start with the first C, competence. Competence is knowing your industry, your product, and understanding the client's needs.
Then we'll explore how developing lasting credibility in the eyes of your clients in the industry can help you build your personal and professional brand and your business success. It's not just about getting certified. We want to help you with some tips on building credibility, and it's all about that spirit of service and continuous learning that really matters.
We'll help you identify strategies to build consistency and discuss ways to show reliability so you can build a level of expectations with your clients.
And finally, when you choose to become a product rep or whatever career you jump into, you're doing this for a reason, and your commitment to your career can help others see clearly why you're always striving to be the best you can be in your craft or in your skill.
From a specifier's perspective, I'm going to have to take this hat off before it falls. From my perspective, I can easily say that, yeah, there's a lot of hype around trust. And we can probably all say that we do have respect for those people that you can trust. That's exactly why this conversation is so important. This is about becoming that person that other people can trust. So in my role as a specifier, it's being that person that people trust to meet a deadline, to do research when my client is confused, and help them navigate to a solution. So that said, I want to be a trusted advisor to those clients I serve, the same way manufacturer's rep wants to be a trusted advisor to the architects, the contractors, specifiers, and owners.
I think most of you, since the holidays are coming up, you'll probably remember the movie The Christmas Carol with Bill Murray. His trusted associate, as shown in this slide, was a guy named Bill Marley from the past. Ebenezer got a visit from Bill Marley, and Ebenezer Scrooge trusted him in life and in business, yet Ebenezer quickly fell into the crypt of greed. You know, if you fall into any of the pitfalls of the four C's and you're not practicing them, this is exactly what a vendor might look like in the eyes of your customer. Hence the reason I wore that ugly mask this morning, because it kind of fits what we're talking about today. I took a really close look at the different axioms around golden rep and trusted advisor that I've been teaching for years. And all of these fundamentals, and there's a bunch of them, they can all really be boiled into trusted relationships that fit nicely into four buckets, or in our case today, four crypts: the crypt of commitment, the crypt of competence, credibility, and consistency. If you master these four crypts, you're golden and you stay above ground. But within each of these four C's, there's an opportunity to fall into the crypt of distrust. Distrust can really get you in trouble. If you're smart and you work at it, you can stay above ground and avoid the crypt altogether. If you're lacking in it or not maintaining these four C's, they can quickly throw you again into this crypt of distrust. This is what separates a trusted advisor and just, another vendor. The four C's can make a huge difference on developing, building, or maintaining a trusted relationship with your clients. And this is also going to impact your reputation in the industry. And especially if this is your career and you're playing the long game.
So let's explore the crypts of the four C's and how they might happen to you.
Yeah, one of my favorites is the crypt of competency. And that really is first things first. You're selling construction products, so you better get to know the construction business. Having a background in what you do is really key. So if you're new to it, get out there and learn. Get out there and learn as much as you can, as fast as you can. Because I'm telling you, that background really makes a difference, and it's key. If you're new to it, again, work hard, get the basic understandings, get out on construction sites. It's really going to help. This is where getting out on projects and learning is the process. Learning the process is key.
So some say the world of construction is full of synonyms, that some things mean the same as other things. And I'm telling you that it really isn't. A quote for your product is not a submittal any more than the word furnish means to install. They just don't sync. The lack of understanding or being on the same page creates havoc. Did you play that game Telephone as a child? It starts by you're whispering a phrase to the person next to you, and then they whisper it to the person next to them, and so on. It's usually, you did it in the classroom, I think in like third grade. There's like 20 of us whispering to each other. Anyway, you get back to the first person. The last person stands up and announces the message that they heard after 20 people have reinterpreted it to each other. And I recall it being pretty amusing. But I obviously, at the time, had no idea how true to life that game is. The game requires listening skills and the ability to remember and recite as much of the original message as possible. In our lives, we interpret words the way we think they fit into our story. If we don't listen carefully and we misinterpret the meaning, we can end up being not so amused.
Yeah, that's a really good story and a good point, Sherry. To me, competence is all about being prepared, knowing your products inside and out, knowing the competitive products honestly, and knowing the performance and quality requirements, the codes, the equivalents, being able to offer good, better, and best. All those are important. Knowing when your product fits the design solution, and perhaps when it doesn't, which is more important. Knowing your limitations can really go a long way with design professionals.
And an architect will not ask you for a submittal, but they may ask you to review a specification prior to a 50% construction documents deliverable. As Casey said, know your products and understand how it works with your adjacent construction and know the process. What does a 3-part spec look like? How is it different from a data sheet? Do you know how to review a 3-part spec? Truly, one of the last things any architect or specifier wants when they ask you to review a spec is to have you not review it and instead send them your guide spec. That's not what they're asking. They already have a spec. In fact, they have an entire project manual of 100 specs or more. So learn how to review your section and how it is affected by other work. Does your product depend on the performance of another product? Ask to review that section too. Give 110%.
Moving into the crypt of credibility. I love these two vendors. They've lost it. Let's explore this crypt. What are you doing to build your credibility in the eyes of your customer and your company's credibility in the industry, along with yours? How do we stay out of the crypt of distrust when it comes to credibility? Well, first, you must be willing to acknowledge that the architect and specifier can only control so much of the buying decision. The architect doesn't write POs, so stop trying to sell them and try to educate them. The other thing that really helps with credibility is getting certified in your craft, whether it's door and hardware, waterproofing, exterior envelope. There's lots of credibility when it gets to certification programs. Go out there and seek those out.
A few months ago, I was working with a client that was looking for a metal panel for an exterior portion of their building. It wasn't a huge area, and they were going round and round about a product because they only knew what the finished look wanted to be. So I reached out to a manufacturer's rep that I would easily call a trusted advisor, and he sent a few options over, which I shared with the architect. Well, they came back with a criteria he couldn't meet with his product line. So instead of fudging it or forcing his product on me and them, he was honest and he suggested another line, and he even gave me the contact name for this other product. So not only did he confirm my confidence in him as someone I could trust, but he built up his credibility by showing me and the firm I was working with that he understood exactly what they needed. He was transparent in that he didn't have the product to meet their needs, and he suggested some alternatives so they could further their work, even if it wasn't with him.
Sherry, you brought up a really good point here. Are you being honest as a product rep? Are you being transparent about the performance of your products? Or are you just shifting the truth somewhat to try to make the sale? Credibility isn't just about selling. It's about fostering that long-term relationship based on respect. And Sherry just highlighted a great way to do that.
So how do we stay out of the crypt of credibility? Well, exactly that example. Honesty, transparency, engage, continue learning about the industry trends in your market. And as Casey mentioned at the beginning of the section, go for the long-term relationship. Don't sell, educate. Create a learning unit, write articles, do white papers about your product, do a presentation.
And remember too, this is your career. So build on that career. No matter what company you work for, your career and your credibility is going to follow you throughout your livelihood. So one of the things I see people doing all the time is making the vendor mistake of promising something you can't keep or can't deliver for some reason. So Never forget this adage: under promise and over deliver. They'll be delighted, and so will you. This builds credibility. And if your product doesn't fit, then don't push it. Features and limitations help build credibility. And remember, a good product benefit is only possible in the eye of the beholder. Features don't always mean benefits. And thanks to Russ Snow for putting this in his last president's message in the Construction Specifications Canada. It was a really good point, Russ, and I appreciate you sharing that. So let's talk a little bit about the crypt of consistency. And we want to identify some strategies to help you build consistency from the client's perspective. So, what does that really mean? What's the crypt of consistency all about?
So, according to the dictionary, consistency is the achievement of a level of performance that does not vary greatly in quality over time. So different clients may ask for or expect a different level of performance. You might call them high maintenance. But across the board, I don't think you would find much argument against just being available or consistently returning calls in a timely manner. How many appointments do you ask for 30 minutes but run over your time limit? Maybe you're consistently right on time. How many questions do you flub or try to talk your way around really answering the question? That lands you in the crypt. So sending me a technical data sheet in response to a question without circling or telling me where on the sheet the answer is that I'm looking for, that lands you in the crypt of consistency. Staying on top of that, showing that level of performance.
These are really good points. And, if you're going to build a reputation for being that honest person, you've got to be very forthright in those appointments and your time, because time is money. For example, when I make an appointment for 30 minutes and I'm in the meeting and I look at my watch and it's 25 minutes past, I actually do a point of clarity really quick. And I just check in and say, hey, in respect for your time, do we have your permission to go on for about 10 more minutes? Or do we need to wrap this up now? Most of the time, when they're interested in what you're talking about, if you've done a good job, they'll let you keep going. But respect, you can't go much farther than what you've asked for. And if they're not ready to go forward, you got to respect their time, because time is money. Become that person that others can always depend on. That's really key. Also, always show up on time, even early if you can, because meetings and presentations can get you in trouble. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'll tell you what, getting to a meeting on time can be a real challenge. So I always advise people, if I'm running late, I try to meet my deadlines, and I do my homework before I go in and make those calls. Remember to follow up too. I mean, we take a lot of notes during our calls, and a lot of us don't do a really good job of following up. Return your calls, return your text. Know when projects are due, and know the extreme timing that people are under. When time is of essence, it's important, and you got to be direct, authentic, and react proactively. Know who you can connect with too to get help when you need help. You want to be that resource orchestrator and get them the help they need, even if it's not in your particular area of expertise.
The underlying theme of how to land in the crypt of commitment is just treating the job as a stepping stone to your next job. You land in the crypt when you don't do the work to understand your product. You don't understand your audience. You don't get involved, and maybe you don't even do presentations or can't answer questions after a presentation. These are signs that you aren't committed to your job.
I've heard a lot of folks talk about presentation skills, and if you just read from the slide, you're not really committed to what you're doing. You want to tell the story, and people listen to a story well more than they listen to facts and figures. So, trusted advisors are committed to finding the correct product or solution when they're talking to their clients. They know what it means to them, they know what it means to their project success, and they never badmouth the competition, or oftentimes they'll even suggest competitive alternatives when they don't have the right fit. They're a resource. They're first to be called to solve problems, educate the firms. They're always honest, and they tell you when they don't know the answer. Can't tell you how many times I've been in a meeting and I go, man, I haven't heard that one. I need to get back with you. So that's the play. Don't try to guess or play games with those types of questions. Sometimes they'll come back and bite you. they'll tell you too. And if you find the answers, they're looking for quick and prompt follow-up. So do what you say you're going to do. They're always trying to improve as well. And the trusted advisors are trying to improve and learn more about the industry and how to stay relevant. Are you participating in these networking events? Are you getting your face out there? That's important to building relationships in this industry. Take the initiative and find ways to add value. So, how can you go the extra mile and stay out of the crypt of commitment? Well, really understanding the construction industry, getting as much field experience in the areas you serve is really important. But I think more than anything, you got to go on site and see how it's done. And you really got to learn the good, the bad, and the ugly, as Clint Eastwood would say, and know what works and know what doesn't, and how you can help coach and counsel others out of those problem areas. So, what happens without the four C's? You see the bubble, bubble, bubble here and how it leads to trust. What happens without it?
Well, unfortunately, Casey, I have a story about what happens. So I had a personal visit from a product rep. Now, remember, I'm an independent consultant. I work from home, and this is many years ago. And, I work from home. I had a visit from this rep who was incredibly upset that his product was not listed proprietarily in the spec. His product was there, but he had some competition, and that just didn't settle well with him. I listened to him at the dining room table, and I made him feel like he was being heard. And I said I would look into it, but do you think I changed that spec? No way.
No way.
Did I ever lean on him in the future?
Uh-uh.
No. After the conversation, I actually started to question his competence around his product. I started to feel like he didn't even know his competition or why. I mean, why would he feel so threatened? He completely lost his credibility with me, made me question his competence, and he made me realize that his commitment wasn't to his that his commitment was to his product, not the overall success of the project. And that was disturbing. If I was asked to specify his product on other projects, I called this competition. He completely lost my trust.
That's a really interesting point. It's easy to do. You know, would you trust this person, Sherry?
I'm not going to say that that was the guy, but no, I wouldn't trust him either.
Well, and unfortunately, many of the product reps that I've gotten feedback on fall into the crypt of distrust, and this is how you do it. Unfortunately, many product reps do this, and it's based off my own research, my own voice of the architect and specifier. I've done this countless times, and I've heard the feedback. So you'd be surprised what you hear about others. You might even call this the vendor crypt. Without knowing the four C's of trust, you might end up that pile of skeletons pretty quick.
So, Casey, why don't you tell me why don't they do it right to begin with?
Well, yeah, you'd think it's pretty basic, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes down to manufacturers sometimes think the best salesperson is going to be a great architectural rep, and a lot of them just don't understand how to do it. It's a consultative sale that's a lot different, and product rep education is absolutely key. Often they just don't understand what's expected of them. They think it's just another sales role. They don't have the authority to do it right sometimes. They just need another sales call to get it in the book. They don't understand the timing expected. Often they simply don't get the feedback on how they're doing it right or when they're doing it completely wrong. So feedback's really important. And sometimes their information sources may be poorly designed. So, for example, you're going to a specifier event or calling on a specifier or an architect, and your samples have been in the trunk for a month and they're all dusty and nasty, and you don't want to do that. I mean, it just doesn't show well. Websites are oftentimes a mess to get around and unorganized. And today's lack of product catalogs and tech bulletins are kind of hard to rely on when they actually need product information that you can show and share. And a lot of times that's done electronically now. So that's a real different avenue for people to have to deal with. And sometimes they're even punished or ignored for doing things right. And simply no feedback loop is what gets them into trouble. That's my summary and take on it. So how do you recognize one of these rare breeds called trusted advisor? Well, I started out in this business a long time ago. And when I first got started, I always admired the other reps who kind of owned the court. I mean, they were the best of the best. And when it comes to being a career, long term, dedicated product rep, you can tell those people by a real simple way. You typically recognize them by, by the admiration that you can tell who the golden rep in the room is, who seems to own the playing field. The ones that get the call back from the architects for advice, and you can't even get the architect to call you back. The architects or specifiers that go out there and they list their story on LinkedIn and they're telling all the major events they're involved with. When I first moved to Atlanta, there was a guy here by the name of Tom Waller who worked for Waller Davis Hardware. And I was here my first year. I didn't know anybody except those folks through CSI. So I called on a big firm downtown called TVS, and I remember it well. I was at the library talking to the librarian about product catalogs. This goes way back. And my good friend Don Benz, who's no longer with us, he actually pulled me aside, and I saw Tom Waller come walk in the office, and he immediately went to Studio A. And Tom looked at me, or no, Don Benz looked at me, and he goes, "That's the kind of person we rely on for our door and hardware. He'll probably visit 4 studios in 3 hours before he leaves." And I go, "Don, how can I become one of those?" So it's one of those things, the people that are out there doing this right because they're the ones that get connected.
So many of you on the call know me. Think back to how you met me. It was probably at an industry event, so there was no need to ask me what I did. You already knew. We get the rosters in advance. We know who we're talking to, so we don't need to hide the fact that we're both in the construction industry, which is great because we can move right into the real meet and greet. Trusted advisors, they don't have a checklist they take out. They move seamlessly and connecting with people. They're networking, they're making friends, they're finding what are those commonalities between that you have with them. They're learning about your pets or your hobbies. We're meeting them at industry events. We're all learning more about our jobs, and we're showing by being there, we're showing that commitment and the consistency, the competence, and the credibility, and all with such simple genuine gestures through networking and learning. We're not there for the sale. We're there to meet people and to build long-term relationships. So when you ask, why is a conversation easier for a trusted advisor? They aren't selling a product. We're both trying to find out how we can fit into each other's success story. Help me, help you.
That's a really good point. Let's build trust today. I love this crypt custodian. That's our job every day. We have to be the custodian of our crypt. The real trusted advisors can understand what you're looking for, and they're committed to finding the correct product or solution for the client. They know what it means to them, and they know what it means to their clients and their projects. They're really important.
So the product reps that I lean on, they don't badmouth the competition. They often suggest competitive alternatives, like the story I shared earlier, when they don't have the best solutions. I called on a product rep recently to help on a question with an RFI. And even with the answer pending their ultimate involvement in the project, yes or no, he gave it to me straight. He told me why and why not, how it compares to what they have. And I didn't feel stupid for asking the questions. And he didn't tell me what to do. He just guided me to a response that would give me credibility with my client.
That's awesome.
So as we've discussed today, building trust in today's world takes time to build, and it can take years to develop. It happens as you feed and nurture your network of connections. Take the long-term approach to serving others well.
Well, and as the picture indicates below with the skeleton on the free ride with the truck, there's no free ride for people. If you're going to be an architectural rep and a professional, there's no time to be a sales vendor and just jump on board and get a free ride. You have to help your clients and you have to serve them well and you have to be able to solve problems. Help them be successful, give back, and help them with everything you do. and expect nothing in return, because that, my friends, is really going to help you build trust. It's kind of a Caseyism mindset that I've utilized for a long time. It's taken years to develop, yet I know it will be, and you will be amazed at how will this strategy can help you succeed in ways you never imagined. It's helped me a lot. I know it'll help you.
So becoming a trusted resource is the secret to the ARC rep success in business today. Thank you for your time on this Halloween day for this special edition. And we would like you to stick around for any questions.